One of the most insidious consequences of being in a toxic relationship with a narcissist is getting into the habit of focusing externally and investing precious energy to attempt to control things in your external environment, including other people, such as the narcissist. And I've counseled hundreds of people who have found themselves constantly wondering what their character impaired partner might do next and what mess they might create, what might they have what might have to be done to appease them. They're walking on eggshells, minimizing all of the damage that is truly being done. And these people, they eventually not only desensitize themselves to the destructive habit of focusing externally, but also in the process become deluded that they'd somehow achieved a level of control over their dysfunctional behavior of the narcissist and other things of which they have never and will never have real control of. And there is a lot of doubt, there is a lot of mistrust, there is a lot of paranoia, and the aftermath of a toxic relationship, as we all know, it is frustration, anger, anxiety, longing, and eventually depression sets in. Never ever try to counter or refute gossip and falsehood. You must prioritize. Some things are truly a big deal, but you must some by comparison things can be bigger and can be smaller, but others aren't. So focus on big issues. Don't waste your time trying to disprove a lie or convince a narcissist convincing a narcissist that they did something. It is impossible to prove something said about you isn't true. Simply affirm that the lie is not true to yourself. And you obviously know this already. So let your own integrity and your own history of reliability and trustworthiness lend you the credence to your assertion. And if you find a person who is in your social circle who's either inadvertently or deliberately helping to spread gossip and spread falsehoods, confront that situation directly and affirm what is true and what is not. One time, make a simple and direct, benign request, firm request, that the person stops enabling the gossip and the destructive conversation. Do not engage in counter trashing of the character of your narcissistic ex, as a lot of people actually do waste a lot of precious emotional energy striving to out what they believe to be their ex's true character. I should say, because this definitely counts for me too, we want the whole world to know what kind of person that this narcissist is, and it riles us to think that our ex-partner has been so successful in the art of impression management that they are able to bamboozle so many people. But rather than try to expose your narcissist's true colors, you should focus your energy and attention on what you really want. If you have made some mistakes or you have done some things that you are not proud of, you own up to that stuff. You take accountability for it, unlike the narcissist. And it is important to be the person you want those closest to you to think that you are, and do your best not to make the same mistakes over and over again, and strive to be regarded as a person who has not only learned from their past mistakes, but has also grown and matured as well. And don't be afraid to be known as someone who will really admit to their shortcomings, as this gives you so much more credibility when refuting the lies of a narcissist, especially like in a court situation. So when it comes to the crazy behavior of your ex, remember that no matter what you say or do, in the end, you will never control a narcissist, and that this relationship will never turn into a healthy one. And you may delude yourself into thinking that you can control the actions of other people and the outcome of events by the actions you take and the words that you say. But in reality, when it comes to someone else's behavior, especially a narcissist, only that person has the power. So when you take action, make sure you are not trying to control someone else's outcome or their events in their life, but serving your own interests, and decide what your limits are, your boundaries are, and defend those things. And then do it as hard as you can. Let it all go. Divorce yourself from the notion that you have any control over anything other than your own behavior and your own reactions. And what you'll find in time is you will feel more vital and empowered, and that narcissist will feel increasingly powerless to control you. And don't be a doormat. Don't throw up your hands and say that you can't do anything to improve your situation. And don't let anger and bitterness and resentment get the best of you. Sometimes we can get inordinate, we can get hung up at the thought that we are having to pay the price, and the sunk cost fallacy, that we've invested so much time and sometimes the best years of our life for an illusion, for nothing. But we must still move forward, even though it is a very difficult thing to do. And don't pass around the anger and all the negative stuff like a hot potato. Accept the nature of the difficult task ahead of you and get to work at the business of personal empowerment. Making peace with the cost of a self-directed life inevitably lessens the burden of your ordeal and frees up much needed energy for the challenge at hand. My name is Sara Ann Brown, and this is Narcissistic Abuse 101. Sometimes, just when you think that your long relationship nightmare or narcissistic abuse nightmare is finally over, the personality disordered person that you have managed to finally separate from begins out of the blue to cause you problems to no end. And they are from spreading lies about you to your relatives, to your friends and acquaintances, to engaging in incredible tactics to make things as difficult for you as possible. And your ex can become an ominous and troublesome presence in your life, as just as much, if not more so, than he or she was when you were together. So this often leads to you wondering whether you will ever truly be free of their destructive influence. And while there is no simple prescription or remedy, there are some general principles that you can and probably should adopt or adhere to faithfully that will, over time, help you claim a new, freer, and more empowered life. Most people, I would say all of us, have been in at least one form of a toxic relationship in our lives. From being restricted and stifled to emotional and physical serious abuse, the list of toxic traits is absolutely unending, and enough articles and videos have been written and have been made and all about the the multiple red flags that can pop up at any time. However, in terms of sustaining a relationship with the hope of it turning into a healthy relationship is something that I want to talk about, and here is why. I personally feel a relationship such as this, it makes it very difficult to make this transition, to convert an entire relationship from toxic to absolutely golden. It seems like some far off utopian dream, as well as a ginormous task. It requires so much commitment and understanding and effort, not just from one partner, but from both partners. And it honestly sounds impossible, especially when toxic can mean that it's never just a one-time offense. It's always impossible. So to align the efforts at the exact same time and pace and extent to try to make a relationship such as one with a narcissist salvageable, it is absolutely 100% impossible. There is no argument against it. A relationship, unhealthy habits, they need to be distinguished from one-off situations. And if it was a one-time situation, for example, where your partner forgot about something, say, really important that is going on with you in your life, and you wouldn't be necessarily putting red flags on like an ambiguous situation like that. Usually that happens after experiencing a terrible pattern of long-term occurrences of abuse, and most of us do come to the conclusion that the relationship is not good for you. It's not good for your mental health, your physical health, your all over well-being. And that is why I believe that by the time the realization hits the victim, a lot of abuse has already occurred, obviously, and justified by both parties, essentially, so much so that even accepting it can become a rather steep process of toxicity itself. So the understanding of both parties, the abused and the abuser, in a relationship, both parties have to understand the gravity of the toxicity, and the person living with it, which this is where it becomes kind of tricky. Most people are not willing to take on the proportion of abuse that occurs in narcissistic abuse situations. And if one person takes it as a premise to call the narcissist out on every single occasion, or not take part in any of the blame, or be absent from the recovery process itself, it becomes a game of who's got the upper hand in the relationship. It's just one big power struggle, constantly, never ending, and it's all in vain in the name of a relationship that doesn't really exist.